In this second to the last episode of the first season of the Scholars Unbound podcast, I thought it might be worth reflecting on some of the lessons I have learned from 1 year of podcasting. Maybe you want to start your own podcast, or maybe you're just curious about the process that goes behind producing a podcast. And if you are, I hope these reflections will be useful. Scholars Unbound is a bi-monthly podcast or video series that showcases the voices of scholars who know no boundaries when it comes to the pursuit of knowledge. You will hear insights from their experiences as international scholars and how these influence their research, hoping to inspire future scholars to be fearless, global, and unbound. I'm your host, Dalia Simangon. The first lesson I want to share with you is that it really takes a lot of time. By a lot, I mean I think I underestimated the amount of time it takes to plan, produce, and promote an episode. Inviting guests for the podcast takes time in terms of communication, but I'm fortunate that I have friends who were readily available when I invited them, and also colleagues and new acquaintances who were so generous of their time. Producing the episode, editing the audio and video, this took the most time. I must admit that I learned audio and video editing only along the way. I didn't know these things before, so I had to learn them from scratch, thanks to YouTube. I also had to learn how to use some programs, and I hope that you have noticed that my editing skills have improved since the first episode. And then promoting the episode, creating and maintaining the social media presence of the podcast, all this take time too. Perhaps some people are so sick of me now sharing new episodes every 2 weeks, but I continue to do so, hoping the episodes will reach the right people, and I'm aware I could do much better by strategizing my social media promotion, so I plan to do that for the next season. The second lesson is that I should have been more prepared. I wish I had the right equipment, the right skills, the right programs before I started. And I wish I had the trailer to the season, or that I watched more tutorials about podcasting. As I told you, I was actually learning by doing, so listening to some of the poor audio quality in the earlier episodes made me realize that I could have been more prepared. Later on, I bought a proper microphone and an editing software just to enhance a little bit the audio and video of the podcast. I'm still learning along the way, and I will continue to apply these lessons and improve these skills for a better season next year. The third lesson is that I should have been a more prepared interviewer. I should have learned how to be a more effective and engaging interviewer and communicator in general. Despite that, I hope I did some justice somehow to the interviews I've done, and I really thank my guests for their patience and understanding. I think I was more preoccupied with the need of having this platform that I forgot in the beginning to ask whether I have the skills to actually start and maintain this platform. This was a very important lesson for me, and I doubt that I am a good interviewer now. I'm still learning the skills. In fact, the process has forced me to learn the skills. But it wasn't in vain, because these are also important skills outside this podcast. I actually think that these are important skills in academia. And the most important lesson is all the lessons I have learned from my guests. I learned a lot from their research, which made me even more convinced that we need a more transdisciplinary collaboration in our research. I learned from their hopes and struggles, strategies within and outside academia, on decolonizing academia and our role in diversifying knowledge, on connecting our research with our values and experiences, on managing the different demands of academia vis-a-vis our personal lives, and so much more. These are the lessons that I will continue carrying with me outside this podcast. It would be interesting to look back at these reflections after another year and see how I applied the lessons I learned and how much improvement I made. Podcasting is a different and new form of communication for me. It's not easy, it takes time, it's definitely challenging, but it's all worth it. I don't regret diving into this project. I'm happy that I did, and I'm very excited for where this podcasting will take me and my reflections. I also can't wait to see where our conversations will take us and who are the other people I will meet along the way and people who will reach this humble project. So if you'd like to join us in this journey and you'd like to support our initiative, please share this podcast with your family, friends, and colleagues and other people you think would like to be a part of our community. I also set up a Patreon account, which I will link in the show notes, if you wish to donate to this project. Your contributions will go a long way in helping me continue this project and also fund some of the initiatives that I'm planning for next year. These initiatives will be tailored to building and developing the skills necessary for the professional development of students and early career scholars from our Scholars Unbound community. Thank you so much for your support, and I truly hope that we can continue our conversations going and keep our community growing. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please consider leaving a comment or rating at iTunes or any of your preferred podcast hosting platforms. For details about upcoming episodes and how to support the Scholars Unbound project, visit daliasimangan.com/scholars unbound with the link in our show notes.